get started going week 2. Looking forward to start opening up Big 12 play. Been asked a lot about, are you excited about playing Oklahoma week 2? Or would you rather play them week 12? Well, truth of the matter is I like to play them never, because they're pretty good. But I don't know if it really matters, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously it is what it is. We're happy to be in the Big 12. We're excited about being able to travel to all the different venues in the Big 12. We got a lot out of that last year when we hit the 4 road games last year, and looking forward to hitting all 5 of the road games this year. So it starts week 2. Don't know if that's good, don't know if that's bad, but we're gonna prepare like we would any other game. We're gonna have a good week of practice starting today and travel on Friday, and I do my best and explaining to the guys exactly what to expect. It's part of our job to prepare them to what they're not only what they're doing on all 3 sides of the ball, but also this is a new experience for probably about 30 to 35 guys that'll be traveling to Norman. Haven't traveled before with our team, so that's a lot of guys, a lot of inexperience. Can't use that as an excuse. Like we didn't let them use it as an excuse last week. We're not going to let them use it as an excuse this week. But we'll do our best to try to get them to understand how we travel and what they need to expect in Norman. So just a couple of notes on Oklahoma. Obviously well coached. Bob Stoops been there, has won 80% of his games. Is just right underneath Barry Switzer as far as percentage on how many games he's won in his 15 years there, so that speaks for itself. They've addressed a lot of things in the off season. Don't think they like how they ended the year last year, much like we didn't, and we changed some things. They changed some things as well. Defensively, they're not going to sit on their heels. They're going to attack. They're going to pressure a bunch. They're going to blitz a bunch. They're going to play man coverage, and they're good at it. Offensively, they're not the throwing team that they have been the last several years. They're gonna run the ball. They got capable backs. They got big fullbacks. They do have quality receivers. Two of the receivers that played against us last year are there. Just they're not getting the ball as much right now because of the focus is to get their young quarterback, the night kid, just involved in the run game and establish the run. Special teams is a different thing as well. Everything they're doing is different than what they did last year, and we will continue to try to assess as far as what their plan is with that. But with that said, it's still Oklahoma. It's still the same team. They're extremely talented. The atmosphere is hostile. It's rowdy. It's loud. There's 85,000 people. They're approximately from here to right here on top of you. They're much like Oklahoma State was last year. They're right on top of you, so our guys are going to have to be able to handle that. Winning tradition, we respect our opponent as we do every opponent that we play, and we'll prepare to go try to win. Take some questions.
Okay, what's the difference between you trying to work a new quarterback in and them trying to work Trevor Knight in?
It's pretty similar. It's pretty similar. Look at what we did last year. I mean, we were both throwing the ball all over the place last year, and this year we're running the ball a lot more. I think you have to probably do that with a young, experienced quarterback. They got a lot of new faces at receiver as well. so dealing with the same things that we are. So I doubt that's any different. They're asking him to do some different things than we are. I mean, he's more involved in their run game than we are. I don't think anybody's going to get a kick out of watching Paul Millard run the triple option or speed option or zone read or any of that stuff. So there's obvious differences in what we're asking them to do, but easing them into it, not putting too much on the quarterback is obviously important.
Dana, their offensive line returns, I think 4 starters, is regarded very well. What do you see out of them on film?
They're big, athletic, got good depth. Looks like the same Oklahoma offensive line that I've looked at for 15 years. Put plenty of guys in the NFL. Their tackles are 6'5", 320. They're big 300-pound guys on the inside. Big, same as it's been for the last 15 years.
You have to do anything different because Bill is on the other sideline now? Are you guys going to approach that any differently because of how well he knows you and this offense?
Yeah, it goes way deeper than that, I can assure you. I mean, it goes back when Bob was, his first year was 2000, I believe, and Mike Leach was his offensive coordinator. So it goes back way beyond that. I mean, you know, I've known Josh Heupel for a long time. I've known Mike Stoops. I mean, we've competed against each other for 15 years. And we've been to clinics together. We've been hanging out together. I mean, they know our offense better than anybody else that's out there. So adding Bill, I don't know what that's going to do for them because they already know it as good as anybody else out there. You know, and you got to be careful with that. You got to be careful with your signals. You got to be careful with your tendencies. You got to be careful with your specific route combinations because they understand it, and they're as good as there is anywhere in the country on defending it. It goes back to when Mark was at Arizona, and Bill was at Arizona, Seth Luttrell was at Arizona, Sonny Dykes was at Arizona. I mean, he's been with people that have run our offense for a long time. So not only does Bob have a tremendous amount of familiarity with it, so does Mike as well.
Dan, do they run a similar offense as you? I know everybody's different, but he even said yesterday that not the same, really. I mean, do they do different stuff, or is it the framework the same?
Said it is or it isn't.
It is.
Yeah, it has. There's been a lot of similarities. when you look at it, there's everybody, you come up with what you want to do offensively, and whether you work with people or whoever you got it for, the longer you're in with the assistant coaches that you're in with, you're going to see gradual changes. You've seen gradual changes with our offense over the 3 years here with outside influences. You've seen changes when I went from Texas Tech to Houston, from Houston to Oklahoma State, from Oklahoma State to West Virginia. There's changes, and that's never going to happen. The base, structure of what the offense is, I think there's a whole bunch of similarities. I think probably some of the formations are still called the same, I would guess. I don't know. When you look at what their offense was like on last Saturday against Louisiana Monroe, there was a lot of sets that were the same. Some of the plays were the same. Some of the plays were completely different that we're not doing. So while it's the same, it's also different in many ways as well. Don't know if that's an advantage or not. If it's an advantage for us, then it's an advantage for them.
You mentioned the atmosphere. I don't know if you want to put a ranking on this, but how hard is, having been there before, how hard is Oklahoma to play at? And does it help that you guys went to Texas last year and at least some of the guys got the experience of playing really
I don't view Texas as having any kind of advantage for us. Each place is different. Each place is unique. I view at Oklahoma as hard of a place to play as anywhere else. There's plenty of hard places to go play. Ultimately you got to have some guys that can block all that stuff out and just get out there and play football. Is it hard to play there? Yeah. Is it hard to play at Texas? Yes. Is it an impressive place? Absolutely. It's a very impressive place.
You mentioned the narrow sidelines, I think, between the wall and the sideline. I think you said Oklahoma State, right? You wouldn't have mentioned that unless it was a thing, I guess. Does
Yeah, it must be an Oklahoma thing, because Tulsa's like that, Oklahoma State's like that, and Oklahoma's like that. I'm telling you, they're literally, the chairs are up against the wall, and then there's people right here. Is there a competitive disadvantage to it? No, it's just a distraction, and there's many distractions that you have to be able to overcome on the road. That's one distraction that you got to overcome.
Didn't really get a chance to talk yesterday about defense as much. I know it was something that you seemed pretty happy with after Saturday. Going back and looking at it, your thoughts on what you guys did defensively and what you're looking to do this week?
For the most part, pretty good. Happy with the second half in particular, obviously, as far as coming out and played with more energy, played with less assignment us in the second half. Shut them out in the second half, which was obviously important to win. You can say what you want to about the first half. I mean, the second quarter was bad. Defensively, the first quarter was good. The second quarter was bad. Offensively, the first quarter was good. The second quarter was atrocious. You can say, well, we played pretty good on defense for the exception of about 3 plays. Well, 3 plays made us look really bad in the second quarter. If you want to be a good defense, then you can't bite on a double move. You got to be able to play the ball in the air. I mean, we're in cover 2 and Carl's right there. I mean, you can't ask for a better coverage to put him in a situation to make the play. And I think 99% of the time he makes that play. But if you want to say, well, we were good on defense for the exception of about 4 plays, well, those 4 plays gave them 17 points, which is way too many.
Instead, that's Kevin White. Any other injuries?
Injuries. I don't recall. Dozie. Dozie broke his leg. He broke his lower leg and his foot. It got twisted up, and it was a bad break. He's out. He's more than likely going to have surgery. So that's and he's a senior. That's a blow. He was a backup buck and was playing pretty good, but more importantly, he was on about 3 special teams in a very important role. Tyler Anderson came in and did a good job for him. We gave Tyler a shout out for a guy that we weren't counting on playing to go in there and give us some decent snaps on defense, and more importantly, go in on special teams and take that role. So he's the only one from the game that we came out and said that he's done. So him and Nana and Shaq are all done for the year. Kevin, I don't know. I mean, we'll find out today. He was day to day until we ruled him out towards the end of the week last week. So he's day to day. Hopefully we can get him back out there.
I know it's a small sample size, but what have you seen from Trevor Knight? What makes him dangerous?
Yeah, he can run. I mean, he's a talented guy. So they said his completion percentage wasn't very good. When I watched the tape, he has a good throwing motion. It's not like he can't throw. There's been guys in the past where they say his completion percentage is low, he can't throw, and you watch him and they can't throw. He's got a good release. He's a talented quarterback. He's going to get better and better. They're going to rely on him to make plays in the run game, and then they're going to rely on him to make plays in the pass game. Hopefully he doesn't get things figured out here this week. I would anticipate him getting things figured out and being a really good quarterback for him.
Can you even use that game last year as a comparison point, considering that it's going to be likely an entirely different offense on both sides?
Can't use it for anything. You can't use it for offense. You can't use it for defense. You can't use it for special teams. So it pretty much didn't happen.
What's Kwiatkowski bring to your defense?
Toughness, smart player. Darwin was our MVP, but he was a close second. He's a smart guy. He's mature. He's physically impressive. He runs pretty good. He gives you pop at the point of attack. Coach Patterson was very pleased with how he plays, but he brings an understanding of the game, which for a linebacker is obviously very important. It's you got to sort things out mentally, and you got to be able to react to things, trust what you see, and get after it. And, did a good job. We were very happy with what his performance was.
How about Dylan, the way you've used him?
Who's that?
Dylan.
KJ. He had an okay day. We got to get more out of him. He played, I think, 12 snaps. We're going to use him in the nickel situation like we did this past week. But how many times did they come out 3 and 4 wide? 5, 6, 7 times maybe the whole game. So we didn't use him very much last game. I mean, obviously with OU and what they like to do with their 3 and 4 receiver sets, there's going to be times where a lot more opportunity for him to be able to get in the game and show us what he got. And then he's got to embrace the special teams role as well. And hasn't done that up until this point, but needs to this week.
But he's kind of like he could be low, he could be high, kind of a safety / nickel. I guess that's what nickelback is, but sort of a new part of what
he lines up like in our base defense at safety.
Right.
I mean, he's a backup to Carl, and can be a, obviously you need backups, and he can be a back guy. But because we feel like he has ability to make plays, we're getting him ready to be that nickel guy as well. That's pretty common for backup safeties to be able to be like your nickel or your dime guy to be able to come down. Ricky Rumpf will be like the dime guy that comes down, and he's the other backup safety.
When you face a quarterback like this one, do you have to make major adjustments to the defense? And if you do, who becomes really important in the defense?
Yeah, more linebackers than anything. You gotta key the quarterback. You gotta make sure that they're in your reads. You gotta make sure that you're following what they're doing. You gotta be disciplined in the schemes. You gotta be disciplined when there's 85,000 people yelling at you, or you just got knocked in the teeth, or whatever it is. I mean, you gotta have the ability to be able to understand what we're trying to do defensively and execute your assignment. Without mentioning names, there was a couple of guys last week that didn't execute their assignment on specific times in the first half when they were able to dump the ball into the flat for a first down, or they didn't rush when they were supposed to rush, which would have got to the quarterback before they were able to throw the passes downfield. I mean, you can't play defense with 10 guys. You got to be able to play defense with 11 guys, and you got to be able to make sure that you're executing your assignment when things are rough, which is basically what mental toughness is all about.
How much do you got to worry about the fullback, Trey Miller? And do they use him similarly to how you guys use Cody Clay?
Yeah, they do. They do. He's a good football player, and you guys know how I feel about Cody Clay. I feel like Cody's a good football player, but Trey's been there for 4 years, and he's tough. I mean, he'll cut you, he'll hit you high, he'll drive you into the ground. Shoot, they've handed it to him several times, and he's hard to tackle. So he's a good football player. He's important with what they're trying to do. He's 6'2", 250. I mean, he's extremely valuable and has been for him for the last several years. Even last year when they were spreading the ball around, he was very important in what they were trying to do.
Coach, with the fact that your team's so inexperienced and Bob's only lost 5 games at home with Oklahoma, is your team to play a near-perfect game to win this one?
You can't ever play a near-perfect game. I mean, that's impossible. But, you're going to have to play well. I mean, I've been there probably 5 times, I think, 4 or 5 times. I don't remember exactly how many times I've been there, but they're hard to beat at home. They're hard to beat at home. They're hard to beat on the road. They're a good football team. They have been for the 15 years that he's been there. To ask our guys, especially with inexperience, to play a perfect game, I think that's impossible. Guys are going to make mistakes. It's how you react to the mistakes. It's how you react to having a holding call and being 3rd and 15. It's how you respond to those situations. We got inexperienced guys, but those inexperienced guys need to grow up, and they need to embrace the fact that they're put in a challenging situation, which I find incredibly opportunistic. To be able to go to Norman and play in front of 85,000 people on national TV and against a very, very, very quality opponent. I think I view that as an opportunity to get better, and I think each and every one of our guys will do the same.
Knowing that, I know coaches don't like to put too much importance on a single game, especially early in the season. But being the first conference game, young team, first road experience, where does this fall into what it could do for the whole season, if anything?
Our goal is to win 1 game a week, and that's all we said last week. We want to win 1 game a week, and then we want to improve on all 3 sides of the ball. When I address the team here in an hour and 10 minutes, I'm going to describe to them what they're about to get themselves into. We're going to give them the game plan on all 3 sides of the ball. I'm going to tell them that our job is to prepare to win the game. We'll travel, we'll line up, we'll do our absolute best to try to win the game and improve on all 3 sides of the ball.
What did the film reveal about the offensive line?
Yeah, you could tell some inexperience with the interior 3. Thought Quentin and Fight played okay. They need to be dominating in that situation, and they were at times. They weren't at times. We talked to them about consistency, and then we talked to the interior 3 about growing up, and quit using inexperience as an excuse. Thought Pat Egger went in there and gave us experience with those 3 guys. We which is why we put him in for a variety of spots in the interior three. So he'll bring us some experience with those inside guys.
Coach, with this being the first Big 12 game with the extra official, do you anticipate seeing an increase in holding penalties or anything like that?
I hope not. No, unless they call them on them. They hold a lot. We never hold.
Dan, it's probably not
I'll
fair.
be interested to see what it looks like. I mean, we did it in the spring game and I liked it. I don't think they will use that as an excuse to call more. I think they'll use that as an excuse to be more efficient in what they do call. And I hope that's the case.
It's probably not fair to say your offense was missing anything last year, right? But you just didn't have the number of running backs you had, and you couldn't do a lot of your three-back stuff. If you can continue to run that out there once, what specifically does that add to your package?
A lot. It adds a lot. Wish we could go back in time, but obviously we can't. But no, it's good. I told you all four of those guys are going to play and carry the ball, and they did. We're going to need them all four. It's a hard position. You can't take that pounding and get the play with the kind of effort that we want you to play with and be able to do it for 10 straight snaps or an entire game, or let alone an entire season. So feel good with where we're at right there. But every year brings different challenges. Our challenge this year is to get receivers where they can make plays. Paul did a good job distributing the ball, but we didn't make any plays. Caught a ball or two and then fell down. That's what I saw. Ronnie made one play. Need guys to make more plays at receiver.
Obviously you don't have Tavon Austin, but what you did with him last year, have they corrected that Oklahoma?
Yeah, I would imagine immediately. Yeah, that was a perfect storm type deal. And Tavon's a great player, and made a tremendous amount of plays last year. Kept us in the game, got us back in the game. We haven't watched that tape, and I'm not going to go into the specifics, but we have not watched that tape, and we won't watch that tape.
Yeah, you get the ball to Charles Sims a lot, but you only threw it to him once. He obviously caught a lot of passes at Houston. Would you like to throw it to him? Maybe you did the other day?
I'd like to throw the ball more than we did. We're talking about throwing the ball 30% of the time. That's embarrassing. We're going to try to correct that, that's for certain. Said I don't care much about stats, but we got to be a little bit more balanced. Here I am, and what the heck's going on here? Here I'm balanced. I'm talking about balance. And everybody says you guys throw the ball, it's air rate, you throw it 80-90% of the time, and I'm talking about balance because we can't get to where we're throwing the ball 50% of the time. Done good work.
Why can't you get there?
Yeah, because you guys are keeping me. I mean, I'm supposed to be at a meeting right now, and we're supposed to be drawing up all these pass plays and everything. Got to get in there and get to work. We're going to work hard on it.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.